Welcome to Real Talk Fantasy Baseball Catcher Rankings brought to you by RivalFantasy.com. Today, we're going over the top 12 catchers right after this. Check it out. All right, thanks for joining in, everybody. Before we start, please hit that like and subscribe button. Now, I don't know if you agree with me, Javi, but one of the best things about fantasy baseball, fantasy basketball, fantasy football, all that is the draft. Draft is super fun. And we just partnered up with Rival Fantasy. Check them out, rivalfantasy.com. You can download the Rival Fantasy app. They have daily drafts, weekly drafts, and season-long drafts all on the same site. Right now, it's basketball season. Baseball season's coming up soon, and we are here to help you guys win your league, whether it's best ball, whether it's daily drafts, weekly drafts, whatever you guys are doing. So you can DM us, you can put it in the chats, and we will get back to you as soon as we see that. And hopefully we can help you win your league. All right.
Yeah,
so
man.
Today we are going over the catcher rankings, and I think you and I definitely agree on this one, along with basically everyone, that has their rankings. And this guy's in a tier of his own, man. Adley Rutschman, like he burst out onto the scene in 2022, and I'm a big firm believer on the sophomore slump, but this guy did not have a sophomore slump, and I honestly was not expecting him to have such a breakout season.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, a catcher with good plate discipline? We never see that, man. We never see that. So I told you ahead of time that I have a hot take on Adley Rutschman. Now,
give it to me.
My hot take is we could see the second coming of Buster Posey.
Dude. Bro, okay. I don't know. Are you done, or do you want to add to that?
I got some comparisons that I want to go, but go ahead, throw your 2 cents
Holy
out there.
crap, bro. Okay, so the funniest thing, right? When you gave me the list of the catchers that, for today's show, I was doing my notes, whatever. Adley Rutschman was number one. I'm writing down his stats: 20 home runs, 80 RBIs, 277 batting average, switch hitter, can hit both sides of the plate, great defense. Like, and in my notes, bro, I literally put one of the best catchers since Posey, Molina, right? Not proven yet, right? But I'm comparing them to Posey. I'm comparing him to Posey and Molina, right? Which is basically like the more recent, two of the more recent catchers that we've had that have been the best catchers in baseball, aside from maybe one of the guys that is on here that's been up there, top 5 catchers for the past couple of seasons. But it was so funny because I thought you were gonna say something like, if he didn't have a sophomore slump, he might have a slump this year. But my take was, to me he reminds me of Buster Posey and Molina, bro. That's crazy.
So funny, man. That's so funny that we actually had like the same thought about this guy. Now, let me just show this real quick. So StatCast kind of became a thing in 2015. Before that, they didn't really measure exit velocities and launch angles and stuff like that. They could probably go back and try to figure it out by watching video and stuff. But 2015, Buster Posey's still in his prime, right? Yeah. So Buster Posey in 2015 compared to Adley Rutschman in 2023. Buster Posey's exit velocity, 89 miles an hour. Adley Rutschman's exit velocity, 88.5 miles an hour. That's only a half a mile of difference. Barrel percentage. Adley Rutschman got him a little bit, 7.5% barrel percentage, whereas Buster Posey was 6.9. Launch angle. Adley Rutschman got him a little bit on there also. 12.6 degree launch angle versus Buster Posey's 10.9. Sweet spot percentage. Adley Rutschman got 37% compared to Buster Posey. That's 33.6%. Expected batting average, very similar. Buster Posey at 310, Adley Rutschman at 292. Now, this actually shows that Adley Rutschman was kind of underperforming his expected stats a little bit, which is why I'm kind of making this comparison right now, because Buster Posey, just a few years before 2015, won the National League MVP.
Yeah.
And honestly, dude, Adley Rutschman plays so much. He played 154 games last season. No catcher does that anymore.
No
You know,
way.
we saw Maurer do it. We saw Yadier Molina do it. We saw Buster Posey play a lot. You know, he played 150 games in 2015. You don't see that anymore. Most catchers are playing 130 games or less. Now, the National League does have the DH now, so that does help a little bit. And Adley Rutschman did play DH a few times throughout the season, so he doesn't catch necessarily every day, but I'm okay with that, you know?
Yeah.
All right, so continuing, batting average. Now, Buster Posey got him on this one, a 318 batting average versus Adley Rutschman's 277. But like I just said, the expected stats are a lot closer. So I'm thinking, you know, a little bit of bad luck in 2023. Maybe he can turn that around in 2024. We can actually be closer to like a 300 batting average. Expected slug, Buster Posey 499, Adley Rutschman at 469. Hard hit percentage, 39.4 for Buster Posey, 38.6 for Adley Rutschman. K percentage, Buster Posey definitely got him on this one because Buster Posey did not strike out, man. 8.3%, but Adley Rutschman was still under 20%. He was under 15% at 14.7%. That is elite strikeout rate right there. Walk percentage. Now, this one, Adley Rutschman got on Buster Posey, a 13.4% walk percentage versus Buster Posey's 9%. Wow. And walks to strikeouts ratio, Adley Rutschman was at a 911, Buster Posey at 1,077. So these comparisons right here, man, Adley Rutschman in his sophomore season is very comparable to Buster Posey in 2015. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the Giants won the World Series in 2015. Is that right? What was I always get this confused. Was it the even years or was it the odd years that they won? I think it was the odd years that they won, but I'm not sure. I should have looked this up.
I think it's the evens. I think it's the evens, bro.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But you know, looking back on Buster Posey, he never really had like eye-popping, you know, stats and stuff like that. But just his presence on the team, you know, it just shows the type of player that he really was, and the type of player that Adley Rutschman could become. You know, Adley Rutschman's numbers are not eye-popping either, you know, for the league. But you're looking at, you know, catcher rankings. There's no one that had any better stats. Well, I guess you could kind of make an argument for Willson Contreras. You know, he had some pretty good stats also, but dude, not compared to Adley Rutschman when it comes to plate discipline. Like he's all around. No speed. You know, he only had one stolen base last season, but you put the walks together, the strikeouts together, the power. You know, at what is he, 23 or 25 years old? You know, he hasn't even hit the man strength yet. So 20 home runs could turn into 25 pretty soon. And like you mentioned earlier, switch hitter, you know, so it is a little bit difficult to hit out of Camden Yards, you know, in left field now because they moved the fence back, you know, but this guy has good launch angle. He pulls the ball decent, you know. I'm thinking that this could be the number one catcher for years to come, man.
Yeah. Oh, so to answer your question, it was the even years, 10, 12, and 14. Yeah, dude. The fact that he can hit from both sides of the plate is it's like a big deal to me. It's like personally a big deal because that's not an easy thing to do. A lot of guys usually favor one side than the other. Not favor, but I mean they'll hit the ball better on one side than the other side. And you know he's a young guy. hasn't hit man strength years yet. Um, and dude, he like to me, it's like he has like Posey, because Posey he had power, not huge power, right? But he was always giving you between 20 and I want to say 25, maybe 30 home runs every season when he was at that elite level. He was always hitting for average. He was always on base. His defense was second to none, and and then Rutschman, it just he embodies all of those things. And I say Molina too because Molina has elite defense. So
Mm-hmm.
that is another comparison. Molina wasn't known for his bat. He would get on base, he'd hit for average, but he wasn't known to have power in his bat. But his defense is always the one thing that stood out more than anything, right? So that's why I kind of mentioned Molina. I was writing down Molina on my notes, but yeah, man, I think this guy's gonna be the number one catcher for, man, I want to say like the next 5 6 years
Mm-hmm.
at the most. Who knows? Maybe longer than that. But yeah, man, and catcher positions that they're very scarce, dude. There's not a lot of catchers out there that you're gonna say like, man, I need to draft him.
Yeah.
Usually people will wait around for a catcher because it's like a tight end in football. Tight ends
Yeah.
are very scarce, and you want the elite ones, and after the elite ones, it's kind of a big drop off after that. So
Yeah,
um
after usually, like, in previous seasons, you've seen, like, after, like, the first, like, 2 or 3 catchers are gone, like, the rest of them are kinda just, like, either very mid or just crap, you
yeah,
know? And
yeah,
this year, catcher actually looks pretty good, man. There's, like, like, if you're in a 12-team league, you're probably gonna have a decent catcher on your team,
right.
you know? But, with the top, like, I'll say like 5 or 6. Like after that, there is a pretty significant drop off, after that. So,
Yeah.
moving on to our number 2 catcher. I'll just show this right here. So these three, Will Smith, William Contreras, and JT Realmuto. So all three of these guys, honestly, to me, they are very similar. I got to give the edge to William Contreras, though. I
Mhm.
do have Will Smith on the top right there, but that's because that's where he's going in ADP. But
Right.
I really think that William Contreras deserves to be number 2 on the list. Looking at his stats from last season, um, one major upgrade, of course, was the ballpark. He's
Ballpark.
going
Yeah.
from Atlanta and moving over to Milwaukee. It's a big lineup downgrade, but the park is a good upgrade. So,
Yeah.
looking at his 38 doubles and 17 home runs last season with a 289 batting average in 141 games. Like we just said with Adley Rutschman, like you don't really see a lot of catchers playing that many games anymore.
Yeah.
141 is still pretty good, man.
Yeah.
You
I was
know?
surprised to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, me too. And the problem was, he was the backup catcher to Travis d'Arnaud, before Atlanta went out and got Sean Murphy. So,
Yeah.
Travis d'Arnaud, he's very known for his defense, and his offense was pretty solid, for a few
Yeah.
seasons also. So, but now, like, there's no one really taking at bats away from William Contreras. So,
Yeah.
that's why I have him at number 2 in my personal rankings, because the batting average that's the big outlier right there. Like Will Smith is not going to hit 290. He
Yeah.
could hit 17 home runs. William Contreras hit 20 home runs in 97 games the season before. So
Right.
these 17 home runs that he hit last season, I think that's actually, like, maybe he was slumping a little bit in the power department. Moving
Hmm.
over to a new stadium, a new team. It takes a little while to kind of like get your bearings and get the team chemistry. And I think that we can actually see even a bigger breakout from William Contreras next season.
Yeah.
He broke out into
Yeah.
the league in 2020 at 22 years old. Now he's 25, going into his age 26 season, getting
Yeah.
that much closer to man strength.
Yeah. I somewhat agree with you. I would still put Will Smith above Contreras simply because I feel like he. So Will Smith didn't. He only played 100 How many games did he play? Oh shit, I didn't write it down. But he didn't play
126.
as many games. How many?
126.
Okay, so I was around. I was gonna say 121, but you know, he had 21 doubles, 19 home runs, 76 RBI, batting 261, which it's like your typical Will Smith um stats. I would say. Um, I don't know why I feel like he can be so much better than that though.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is about Smith. Like during the season, he's kind of like I want to say very
Streaky?
kind of streaky, but like he just kind of keeps it like a mellow like statistically speaking, he's not like wowing you, I guess. But when you go into the playoffs, he's a totally different player,
Oh,
bro.
yeah.
That's what I was trying to get at.
He's
And I
clutch.
know, yeah, and I have that written down on my notes. Like he's a clutch dude. And I know for fantasy purposes that kind of doesn't really matter, but to me, I just feel like he's 28. I still think he can improve. Honestly, I think he can be better than this. And I think that's why I have him above Contreras, even though I know Contreras is like right there. Like I can see him, I can kind of see these two guys interchange a little bit. Maybe after this season and seeing how Contreras does, it'll be a different take next season. But I feel like I still have Smith just a little bit above Contreras, simply because I just think that he can improve. He has almost the same kind of stats that Contreras has. Maybe Contreras has more hits, more doubles, but as far as the home runs, RBIs go, and the obviously better batting average. Um, Contreras did strike out 126 times. I don't know if that's is that like average or not, but
Yeah, he doesn't
um,
have the best K percentage. Uh,
yeah.
William Contreras.
So
He's at
that's kind of where
last
I
season. Sorry,
yeah,
last
yeah, go
season
ahead.
he was
Sorry.
actually at 20.6%, which is 7% less than he was in the previous season. So he did make some strides in the strikeout department.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of where I was I was debating whether I wanted Smith on top, Contreras, I was kind of like debating on both of those, but I still think Will Smith can improve, man. I like Will Smith, man. He's a good catcher. His defense has improved a lot. Since he came into the league, he wasn't very good at framing balls and stuff like that, but he's gotten a lot better as far as defense goes. But that's my take. I'd pick Smith over Contreras. Realmuto, I'd keep him there where he's at. He's getting up there in age, and he's still kind of like the same, you know, um, giving you, 20 home runs between 60 and 80 RBIs, a season. The injuries, that they're starting to kind of hinder him a little bit. He only played 135 games. Um, but
Wasn't he
yeah,
on
I
concussion protocol? I think he had a concussion last season. I think
yeah,
he like on the backswing of a bat or something.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
let me back up just a little bit. Now, I understand, everything that you're saying about Will Smith and William Contreras, and I completely agree. But this is the reason why I have William Contreras number 2 and Will Smith number 3. Now, 2 years ago, the National League did not have a DH. So Will Smith, they didn't have a DH in their system, and they did in 2020 though, and then Will Smith was getting a lot of plate appearances at DH during 2020. A lot behind the dish, and then a lot of and DH. And then 2021 came around, and 2022 comes around, and he was playing DH and catcher, but JD Martinez was taking a lot of DH appearances away from Will Smith. He's an older player. He also played left field, so they valued JD Martinez as bat, so they wanted to make sure that he was in the lineup basically every day, left field and DH. Now they have Shohei Ohtani going into 2024, and there is no other DH other than Shohei Ohtani. That's the only thing that he's going to be doing in 2024, and he might play 162 games at DH. As long as he's healthy.
Yeah.
Which, looking at those videos from spring training, hitting tanks, dude.
Bro, I'm ready.
This guy is going to be like how Bryce Harper was last season, where he comes back a little bit early, because Shohei Ohtani, I believe he had his surgery right before baseball playoffs started. So like in September, maybe the end of September. So you got September, October, November, December, January, February, March. By the beginning of the season, it's going to be 6 months, which is a little bit later than what Bryce Harper did. And Bryce Harper didn't really start showing his power until about the 6-month mark. So we see Shohei Ohtani right now hitting tanks, 5 months after his surgery. Yeah. I think he's going to be completely healthy for the season coming up.
I can't wait.
And now, the one thing that I will give to Will Smith, though, is that they're talking about him being the cleanup hitter for the Dodgers, which means a lot of runs and a lot of RBI. He batted mainly like third in the Dodgers lineup last season, which is still really good. He's hitting behind Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. But now he's going to be hitting behind Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani, and he's still going to have Max Muncy behind them with some other good hitters, in the lineup behind him also. So he's going to have counting stats up the wazoo, man. A bunch of runs, a bunch of RBI. It's really just going to come down to how many games are they actually going to have him play behind the dish, because he's not going to be DHing at all.
I'm sorry. That was kind of one of the reasons too that I kind of put him up there, because he plays on the Dodgers, man. Dodgers have a stacked lineup. Dodgers can easily have runners on first and second, right off the rip. You got people on base already, and he's really good at driving, runs in, so I mean, Brewers offense isn't what it used to be, but they're still always in the mix, playoffs and stuff like that, but they're it's not compared to the Dodgers lineup, man.
Yeah, let's say that most of it, we agree, but I think that there could be just a playing time concern for Will Smith, which is why I have him downgraded just a little bit at number 3. But I do agree with you on what you said about JT Realmuto, that he's kind of, he's getting a little bit older and he's in that like decline mode. He did decline a little bit in 2021, and then he kind of came back in 2022, I believe. And, he surprised a lot of us. I think he had like 20 stolen bases that season or close to it. I got the stats here. So in 2022, he had 21 stolen bases, and then he had 16 last year. Now, 16 is still pretty good. What other catcher is going to get you 16 stolen bases? You're not going to really find that anywhere else, which is definitely a lot more valuable in categories leagues than it is in points leagues. But his plate discipline is still pretty good. Last year was a little inflated. In 2022, JT Realmuto's strikeout percentage was at a 21.2%. Last season was at 25.6, but his career numbers are 20.6. So I think that he could, cut down on the strikeouts this season, and we could see that on base percentage climb up again. In 2021, his walk percentage was at an 8.9, and then 2022 was at a 7.3, and then last year was at a 6.5. So that might be, the decline that we are seeing right there, in addition to his batting average, because last season he only hit 253, compared to the season before at 276. So I do see a decline in batting average and possibly on base percentage, because of the lack of the walks kind of declining, but still hit 20 home runs, 16 stolen bases, good amount of runs, decent amount of RBI. I think that last season with Trey Turner's struggles and Bryce Harper not playing, Bryce Harper like until mid-season, I think that that's kind of what hindered his counting stats as well. So we could see those climb a little bit, but just like I said, I do agree with you where he's in a decline right now because of his age. He's going into his age 33 season, and as a catcher, when you're crouched down like that for basically your whole career at 33 years old, your knees start to give out a little bit. There's another catcher on our list a little bit later on that's a little bit older than him that is also on the decline. So it happens, man. And they have Kyle Schwarber that's going to be their main DH. He's going to play left field, but he's also going to DH a lot. So I don't really think that JT Realmuto is going to get too many starts at DH also. So we could see his playing time kind of decline as well.
Yeah, kind of like Smith.
Yeah,
exactly. I can see that. Yeah, so yeah, that's I agree 100% on JT. Which you expect that, getting older, catchers getting older, you're gonna start seeing a decline in certain areas of his game. But I mean, he could still give you 20 home runs. I mean, that's great. And 16 stolen bases. Damn.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming. He's a big dude.
Dude, if he didn't steal 16 bases last season, I think I might put him in the tier lower.
Yeah.
I think that's really what kind of like separates him apart from every other catcher, on this list. And the reason why he's still up there, that increases his value so much, especially in categories leagues, but also in points leagues as well. It shows that he's actually trying out there,
right?
Because you have to make a big effort if you are going to be stealing 16 bases,
Yeah. Agree.
All right. Moving on to tier 3. Now, this has a lot of names. Yainer Diaz, Salvador Perez, Sean Murphy, Francisco Alvarez, Willson Contreras, and Cal Raleigh. Right. Starting out with Yainer Diaz. So, Yainer Diaz from the Houston Astros. So, this is the catcher that I want the most. I'm just going to, be blunt about it right up there. This is the catcher that I see with the most upside. I mean, you could say the same thing about Adley Rutschman. Maybe he could, increase the powers or whatever. But dude, Diaz only played 104 games last season and still hit 23 home runs with a 282 batting average.
Yep.
Now, Dusty Baker's gone. Maldonado's gone. There's no one standing in his way anymore, man. So the GM from the Astros, what's his name? Dana Brown. So he went on record to say that Yainer Diaz is the guy for 2024. We're going to see this guy. So reminder, he only played 104 games last season. We're probably going to see closer to 130, 135 games from Yainer Diaz this season. I got to change this real quick. Keep forgetting to do that. There we go. All right. So, that being said, 23 home runs in 104 games in a really good lineup. I think that we could see closer to 30 home runs, dude. And 30 home runs from a catcher is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
You don't see that too often. We've seen that a couple times from Salvador Perez. We've seen that a couple times, Will Smith has gotten close to it. JT Realmuto has gotten close to it, but it's hard to get 30 home runs from that position. They don't play that often. Like we mentioned before, they only play, 3-4 times a week, unless they're so good at hitting that they DH sometimes. But dude, I have Yainer Diaz as my breakout player for this season.
Yeah, the stats really popped out when I was doing my notes. 104 games. Dude, guys hit 23 home runs in a season. Some guys, that's what they do. They he had 60 RBIs, hit 282, bro. I mean, that's great, man. He and he plays he plays on a stacked Astros lineup. What more do you need, right? And he's young, he's 25.
And you mentioned the 282 batting average. That's to go along with his 288 expected batting average.
That's
so
insane.
we could probably expect him to hit close to that
290.
Yeah, something
Damn.
like that.
Yeah, and you know it's funny because I mean, he wasn't really a known commodity last season. I didn't really know anything about him until they brought him up, and then he was just hitting bombs, and he was, I was like, who the heck is this guy? Like, I don't know who he is. I've never heard of him, you know, until he, started producing the way he was producing for the Astros, and then you're like, oh, okay. And then I look at his stats, and I'm like, holy crap, this guy was good last season,
Yeah, he was legit.
But yeah, and I mean, I'd love to have a guy like that on my fantasy team. That'd be
Yeah,
kind of
especially
like
now with the GM
uh,
coming out and saying that he's going to be, the primary
the
catcher.
guy.
Like
Hmm.
that's going to help, so much, dude.
Now, do
Um,
you think that might put a little pressure on him because they might expect a little bit more? Some guys
um,
they fold under pressure, and he's young, so
yeah, he is really young, but the thing is, he's the guy, as in like the catcher that they're going to use. But dude, they just extended Jose Altuve another 5 years. And they still have um, their basic core, Kyle Tucker, that they have such a good lineup that's batting in front of him. So he's
mhm,
not going to be like the center of attention. He's going to be like the guy that is going to be more like the shot caller when it comes to, you know, calling pitches and stuff like that. I feel like they're putting their trust into him to be the catcher, not necessarily like a leader out there, which he is
right.
going to be a leader because a lot of catchers are the leader on the team, in the infield, you got the shortstop, outfield, you have the center fielder, but between pitcher and catcher, usually like those guys are in sync, but the catcher calls a lot of pitches. A
Yeah,
lot of people don't realize that it's not really like the pitcher that gets the pitch selection. A lot of times the manager is telling the catcher what to call, or the catcher just knows, like guys like Yadier Molina, he didn't need any coaches telling him what pitches to call because he was just that good. And
yeah,
they're putting their trust in this guy, and if the Astros front office is putting their trust in Yainer Diaz, I'm putting my trust in him too, man. The
yeah,
Astros front office is pretty smart. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
2017 they got into some trouble, but you can't hang that over their head all the time,
yeah,
because they still won a championship a couple of seasons ago, even after that happened,
yeah,
and they consistently win that division every single year, except for, actually, I think they did win the division last year, even though the Rangers won the World Series.
yep.
I think they
Yeah,
kind
they
of just
did.
broke out like towards the end. So the Astros are still a force, man.
Sad to
The
say. No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
sad to say. All right, before we move on to the next guy, I do want to promote this real quick. We are We are starting a 12-team head-to-head categories league for 2024. Prizes for the winner. It is going to be a custom-made fantasy baseball champion jersey, a Real Talk Baseball fantasy champion jersey. There is no entry fee. So if you want to play with us, we do have a team in the league as well. We have a few teams in there, and there's a few spots open. So if you guys would like to join our league, our 12-team head-to-head categories league for 2024, send us a message on Instagram, Facebook, wherever you guys follow us, and we are going to be selecting names out of the list that we have, and hopefully you guys will be able to join our league, and we can all talk crap to each other in the chats.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Should be
that'll be fun.
fun.
That'll be fun. All right. Moving on to our next player. Now, I do have Salvador Perez as the next catcher on this list, but I guess we could talk about him first. But honestly, for me, I don't want any part of Salvador Perez. I just I don't trust him. I know the ADP is there. He's at ADP 131, and we've seen him be elite in the past. He's had a 48 homer season, just a couple years ago in 2021. But I don't trust that anymore, dude. Last
The
season he
injuries,
had
man.
the injuries, yeah, and it's just more than that, man. He's getting old. He's going into his age 34 season, just like we talked with JT Realmuto, going into his age 33 season. It's just these guys getting older that have been behind the plate for so long, their bodies just aren't, they're not what they used to be. And so Salvador Perez had 9 home runs in May. And, we all saw him hit 48 home runs in 2021. So we were like, oh, okay, well, 9 home runs in May. Maybe this could be the beginning of Salvador Perez, possibly doing this again. But guess what? Fool you. All right, that time I did it right.
That's nice.
Yeah, so he fooled us, man, because the rest of the season, Salvador Perez hit 260, which is not that bad, but 11 home runs. 9 home runs in May and 11 home runs the rest of the season.
That's crazy.
That's not good, man. Seeing the decline of this guy, and honestly, I guess he does have some appeal because there's no one in Kansas City's depth chart or whatever that's going to be taking time away from him. They do have Freddie Fermin, the backup catcher for him, but he's 28. He hasn't had a breakout season, so I don't really see Freddie Fermin really taking any at bats away from Salvador Perez. I think that Salvador Perez is going to be their guy until his contract runs out, basically, or until he gets too hurt where he can't play.
Right? Don't they have Melendez?
Yeah, but he's their primary left fielder now, so he doesn't really play catcher anymore. He had catcher eligibility in 2023, but he's not going to be playing catcher anymore.
Okay, so I guess they're just trusting Salvador Perez to have a healthy season, and that is a difficult thing to trust because, like you said, he's up there in age, and the decline on him is real, man. I see the decline on him more than I do JT Realmuto. He struck out 135 times, only 19 walks, which that's what you would expect because he likes to swing the ball and he wants to hit home runs, and he only had 23 last season. But I mean, if you're in that pinch where you need a catcher, I mean, he's I guess you could say one of the guys out, following him. There's another dude, that's coming up that we're gonna talk about that, could practically move up, maybe in, tier 2, depending on how he does. But Salvador Perez, he for many years he was the top 2, 3 catcher.
He's the biggest power hitting catcher that we've seen for a really long time.
For a long time. Yep. So yeah, I don't want nothing to do with him, honestly. Who knows? He might prove us wrong and he might actually stay healthy, but I don't trust that. I don't want that on my team. I actually had him last season in your league, and yeah. It was kind of hard to drop him, because there really wasn't anything else out there, you know what I mean?
But there were questionables, guys that were just coming up. Do I really want to drop Salvador Perez for a rookie?
Yeah.
We don't know how if he's going to play. We don't know if he's only up for a little bit and then going to get sent back down to the minors. So there's too many questions about some other guys. But honestly, going back to this picture that I have on tier 3, I actually have Salvador Perez all the way at the bottom. Out of all these guys, I would prefer all these guys: Yainer Diaz, Sean Murphy, Francisco Alvarez, Willson Contreras, and Cal Raleigh. I prefer all of them over Salvador Perez, unfortunately. Even though his ADP is still higher than a lot of these guys, I still feel.
I think it's the name.
It is. It's definitely the name. But I think that's enough on Salvador Perez. Honestly, I don't even think that Salvador Perez is even going to be in the top 12, in our catcher rankings next season. I am very, very excited about our next name, Sean Murphy from the Atlanta Braves. Dude, Sean Murphy had an amazing first half, 306 batting average, 17 home runs. and he just fell apart. 159 batting average with 4 home runs in the second half. Terrible. Terrible. Dude, he lost playing time. Travis d'Arnaud started kind of like taking over. The Braves kind of lost trust in him. And there was actually an interview with Sean Murphy, and they asked him like what happened in the second half. And Sean Murphy, that he said that he struggled with the humidity in Atlanta, because he's not used to that. He played in Oakland for so long. And before that, he went to high school in Ohio. And when you look at the humidity levels in the city that he grew up in Ohio, it's about 50%. In Oakland, the highest it was about 50%, but it would usually be like 30, and that's not very high at all. Maybe a little bit of sweat, on your brow or something. But dude, the humidity level in Atlanta gets to like 80 to 90%. And you and I can attest to this, man. Moving from LA to the East Coast, the humidity over here sucks.
Oh man, I can't stand it, bro. Oh my god. It's like you don't even have to go and run around. You literally take a 5-minute walk and you're already like your shirts are damp and you're already breaking a sweat, and it's like, oh man, it's a nasty feeling, bro. Like I miss the Cali weather.
Honestly, I can't blame Sean Murphy at all, because he knew that he was going to an East Coast team, once the trade kind of went through, but I don't think that he was prepared for that, man.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for it. I was more worried about like, damn, the winters are going to be cold.
Yeah.
I didn't think like, damn, the summers are going to be sticky. I knew it was going to be hot. I knew it was going to be hotter than California, than LA weather, but I did not think about humidity because I've never really had to deal with that before.
No.
My vacations consisted of like Vegas, where it's like a super dry heat. And then coming over here, man, mowing my lawn, dude, I'm sitting on like a little less than an acre, man. And I had a push mower for a long time. Oh, dude.
Sometimes it's unbearable sometimes, bro. Like I mean, you've been to my house. Like I have like a backyard and a front yard that I need to freaking mow, and it's not fun when it's, 90 degrees with the humidity like 80 or some crap like that,
Yeah. And I
But
play
yeah,
softball too, and playing softball, man, I've played in humidity before, but a 45-minute softball game and I'm like drained after. I can only imagine what these guys go through, wearing all that gear for one, and then also playing, for about 3 hours.
yeah,
Like that sucks, man. And
yep,
it doesn't matter if you're like, only catching for 15 minutes and then you get to go sit down for 15 minutes and then you catch for 15 minutes. Like that's not a break. You're still outside. You're still in that 90-degree weather with the 90% humidity. Anyone that's been on the East Coast or Florida, wherever you've been, like you can attest to that. Like this is not an easy thing to do. And he was not prepared for it. But I do feel like Sean Murphy is prepared now. He's mentally prepared. He knows that he has to stay hydrated all the time. I feel like he's going to be much more prepared this season. So that's why I have him at number 6 on my list.
right. Sean Murphy, he was great with the A's. And you would think that, the way he started off, going to Atlanta and having that great lineup, that he plays with, you would have thought. I mean, he didn't have a bad season. 21 home runs, 68 RBIs, 21 doubles. 49 walks to 98 strikeouts. That's not bad. He did hit 251, which I don't know. To me, for a catcher, that's kind of like average, 250, 270, around that range. So it wasn't horrible, but the way that he fell off in that second half of the season was like, damn, like he really fell off.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
Imagine what would have been if,
Yeah,
if he
exactly.
was more prepared for the humidity that he had to handle.
Yeah. Um, you know, um, going back to this list, I actually like the guy that's after him more. I like him right after Diaz.
All right, go ahead and start it
Francisco
off.
Francisco Alvarez for the Mets, man. He played 123 games, 25 home runs, which is it's great for 123 games,
Hmm.
63 RBIs, but his batting average was horrible.
Yeah.
209, man. Um, Now mind you, he's 22. So, I feel like he's got some kinks to work out. But this dude was one of those high touted prospects, catching prospects. He was very high, on the Mets prospect list. And I feel like obviously the fact that he's young, he still has like a long way to go to improve. But I like this guy. I don't know, man. I don't want to say he's gonna break out this season because the Mets don't look that great.
And they're really not known for like developing their players either.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you see a lot of these guys, they leave too, they had uh what was that Scherzer and
Verlander.
Verlander, and they're not even there anymore.
Yeah.
They didn't even last, which I don't know what that had to do with, but you
Well,
know,
I actually heard an interview with the Mets GM, and he was saying that they're looking forward to 2025. Like 2024 is going to be more about like rebuilding.
right.
2023, that it was a bust because Scherzer and Verlander didn't work out, and 2024 is going to be more about rebuilding towards 2025.
Hmm.
And Pete Alonso, they offered him an extension, but he actually declined it.
Yeah, I heard he was gonna look elsewhere.
Yeah,
That's what I'm hearing.
he's trying to test free agency, and
Hmm.
if there's a if there's a first baseman out there that is offered an extension for a lot of money because Steve Cohen has a lot of money, if he declined it, that kind of says something about the Mets system also.
Yeah,
He doesn't want to be on the Mets anymore. He wants to
he wants
test free
to.
agency and see how much money he can get somewhere else,
Yeah,
and maybe on a team where they have that like bigger winning mentality.
yeah,
And I could see him playing on the Phillies, man. I
man.
could see him going to the Phillies. They lost Reese Hoskins. They have Bryce Harper at first base, but they could easily put Bryce Harper back into the outfield and
Yeah,
have
they
Pete
can.
Alonso, a dude that can hit 50 home runs,
Mm.
and in Philly, that'd be awesome, dude. That would put them
Dude,
on
they.
the map for sure.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Um, but yeah, I mean, going back to Alvarez, I like Alvarez a lot, man. I think he might actually break out this year if he can, keep those strikeouts down because he had 110 strikeouts to only 34 walks. Um, but his defense he's known for his defense. That's what everybody was raving about this guy.
Yeah.
But in 123 games, he hit 25 home runs, dude. That's pretty good, man. I like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I like that a lot.
and he's young, bro. So, in a keepers league, yeah, I would take a chance on somebody like Alvarez. Just
Yeah,
like Diaz. Diaz is 25. He's young too.
he hits the ball really hard, dude. Like you
Yeah.
said, the 25 home runs in 123 games. He hits the ball 90 miles an hour on average exit velocity. It has 114.1 max exit velocity. That's 91st percentile in the league, not just for
Yeah.
catchers, for the whole league, man.
Holy.
And a 12.5 launch angle. He has a swing built for home runs,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's what the Mets are all about, man. Like seeing like Pete Alonso, like their coaching staff, they want guys that hit home runs. I feel like they're like the Yankees, like 2.0. Like we've seen the Bronx Bombers,
Yeah.
Aaron Judge. They go after Aaron Judge. They go after Giancarlo Stanton. They go after a lot of guys that can just bang it out of the park. And rightly so because Yankee Stadium has that short porch in right field. But the Mets, I feel like they're kind of like adopting a similar style where they want guys
Mm.
with power. Where
Yeah, I can see
Francisco
that.
Alvarez comes in, in the minors, he was hitting like 260 to 270 each season. So when you transfer over to the majors, I think that's kind of gonna like roughly translate to more like a 250, 260 batting average, which is fine, because that's
Yeah.
usually what catchers hit anyway, like you said earlier. But 25 home runs in 123 games. I think we're probably going to see closer to like 30 to 35 home runs. And like you said, he's super young. He's only 21 years old last season, going into age 22.
Yeah.
Dude, this guy could be the premier power hitter in the catcher division.
Nope. I that's how I see it, man.
Yeah, he's only going to get better. You know,
Yeah.
with those exit velocities at 22 years old, he's going to be up there, man. 91st percentile. That's crazy. 91st
Yeah.
percentile at 22 years old. I love it. Love
Yeah.
it. Love all these young guys with all this
I'm
big
ready.
power. Ellie De La
Yeah.
Cruz,
Especially catchers, man. Like I said, catchers is it's so hard to find good catchers, man. So when you got young guys that are coming up, and they have these kind of tools at their disposal, it's awesome, dude.
Yeah, there's a lot of young guys on this list, honestly.
Hmm.
One of the guys on the list that's not so young, which is our next name, Willson Contreras, the older brother of William Contreras. And dude, he's still pretty good, man. I would be happy with Willson Contreras on my team as my catcher, if it came to it. At ADP 154, I think that's a decent value for him. That's late enough in the draft where I wouldn't mind taking a catcher. Especially after he just had one of the best seasons of his career. He had career high max as exit velocity, career high barrel percentage, career high on base percentage, career high doubles, career high stolen bases. Willson Contreras stealing bases? What the hell is that about? We've never really seen that before. He had, I mean, it was only 6, but still, only got caught stealing 3 times. So, it's almost a not like a 0 in speed, but in the categories league, like if your catcher is going to steal a base once in a while, like that could kind of put you over the edge, in a league where like basically everyone's stealing bases right now. You don't really get that from a catcher, like we were talking about with Realmuto.
Yep. And the fact that it was his first season in St. Louis, it's like the complete opposite, right? You'd think that he kind of take a decline and go into a new stadium, new team, new teammates, whatnot. But he had one, like you said, one of his best seasons in his first season as a Cardinal, which is like that's you don't really hear about that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
most
what
guys,
though?
yeah,
Like last season, he had a very good offensive season, but his defense actually declined a little bit. And Willson Contreras is actually known for his defense. So he actually lost some playing time because some of the Cardinals pitching staff were not happy with his pitch calling. And the Cardinals were even talking about moving him into the outfield,
I
and
didn't hear about this.
it never happened. I don't think it happened. I don't remember him ever playing outfield, but I honestly think that Contreras learned from this, and I think next year. See, the thing is, he was trying to fill Yadier Molina's shoes,
Yeah,
and just like
can't
we
do
were
that.
saying earlier, like you can't do that,
No way.
And Yadier Molina is known as one of the best pitch callers in the game of all time. One of the best defensive catchers of all time. And when you have Willson Contreras, who is also a very good defensive catcher, come in, that's a lot of pressure. And he even said years ago when he was with the Cubs, like, I want to be the new Yadier Molina. He wanted to be the guy known, for his defense, and he wanted to be like the premier catcher, that every team like wants their catcher to be, but I think that the new team, the pressure, I think it was just a little bit too much for him. But now he got a cold dose of reality, and I think next season he's going to come back with a little more susceptibility to coaching.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. Sometimes when players talk like that, I don't agree with it because you have to be your own player, right? You can't, especially when you're trying to you're trying to be wanting to be like Yadier Molina. Those are some big shoes to fill, man.
Yeah.
Like I don't think you're ever gonna see somebody, aside from maybe Adley Rutschman that we talked about a while ago, get close to what Yadier was. He just needs to play his game, and I think him, realizing that and hearing his teammates talk about how they felt about his pitch calls, he might just snap out of it and just be like, you know what, I gotta play my game and stop trying to compare yourself or try to be somebody that you're not.
Yeah,
You're not
especially
gonna be.
because he also has a brother, and
Hmm.
that's playing in the league as well. And
Yeah.
there's always going to be like that friendly rivalry between
Yeah.
brothers. We saw them at the All-Star game, and they were crying, because they were just looking at each other like, dude, we made it. You know
That's crazy.
that's crazy for two brothers to be able to make it into the league from like when they were kids. Like they didn't have any idea that this was actually gonna, like, go their way for them. Of
Yeah.
course, they wanted it. Every kid wants, to be the guy
Make
on
it.
Putin's box and,
Oh yeah.
to be drafted by a professional team. And, dude, these brothers made it, both of them catchers. Usually, you don't see that either. Like
No.
Austin Nola and Aaron Nola. Austin Nola's the catcher, Big Brother's the pitcher, Aaron Nola's the
Mm,
pitcher. So, but both of these guys catchers. So I definitely like Willson Contreras just a little bit more, but he's also a lot younger. And Willson Contreras actually did have a lot of hype about him, when he was
yeah.
young. Uh,
Yeah, he did.
very, very similar to William Contreras, but I feel like William Contreras, just the ballpark is better. Too bad Craig Counsell's gone. That
Hmm.
would have definitely helped develop him a lot better, than whoever the Brewers have. I don't even know if they hired a manager or if they're just going with their bench coach or whatever their plans are. But
Yeah.
that being said, I still do like Willson Contreras, ahead of like Salvador Perez, like we mentioned
Yep.
earlier.
Yep.
I'd much rather have Willson Contreras, even though Willson Contreras is going into his age 32 season. 32 season compared to 34 from Salvador Perez, and the Cardinals lineup is a little bit better than the Royals lineup.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I do
Definitely.
prefer him. All right, moving on to the next guy, we have Cal Raleigh. Another switch hitter, man, and do 30 home runs and 145 RBI, 145 games. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty damn
There's your
good.
30 home runner. There's your 30 home
Yeah,
run guy.
especially hitting in Seattle. That's known as more like a pitching friendly, neutral-ish kind of ballpark, not really
Yeah.
known as a hitter's ballpark. So, this guy has got some big power.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. His strikeouts are up there, man. That kind of worries me. 158 strikeouts. Um, but the guy hits bombs, man. And you know how we always talk about, like, I don't care how many times he strikes out. If he's hitting 30, 35 home runs, I'll take it.
Yeah, and
That'll even himself out.
he's going into age 27 season, so he's
Yep.
hitting man strength soon. That means that we could see an uptick in power again, man. He's already hitting the ball pretty decently hard. He hits it about 90 miles an hour on average, but 114 miles an hour max. That's
Yeah.
pretty good, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, and obviously his batting average is going to take a dive when you're
Yeah,
striking out that much, so 232 is not great.
yeah. Batting
But
average sucks.
yeah, but again, if he's hitting bombs, like, does that really matter? I mean,
Exactly.
depending on what kind of league you're in, but you've always said, I don't care about average, I don't care about strikeouts. If he's giving me like 30, 35, maybe 40 home runs, I'll take that any day.
Yeah, and even though he does strike out a lot, 27.8% and 29.4 the year before, which it did get a little bit better last year, he walks at a pretty decent clip at 9.5%, which is a little bit higher. It's about 1% higher than league average. So the walks kind of offset those strikeouts just a little bit, but I'd still like to see him drop it. He's kind of like a Max Muncy kind of like
Mm,
approach at the plate, but with
right.
not as good plate discipline. He's going to have that
Yeah.
low batting average with a decent amount of home runs. I just need to see the strikeouts drop a little bit. And like we talked about with like Julio Rodriguez and a couple other guys in Seattle, like there's not really any other veterans that can really like kind of like guide him. And that I think Seattle really kind of messed up not going after some of these veterans. But there are some guys still out there. JD Martinez is still a free agent. I wouldn't mind seeing JD Martinez in Seattle, helping these younger guys, because JD Martinez was known as like a premier power hitter, back in the day also when he was in Detroit, when he was with the Diamondbacks. With Boston, he kind of fell apart a little bit towards the end of his Boston career, but then had a little resurgence with the Dodgers. Wasn't hitting 40 home runs anymore, but he still had a good batting average and hitting 25 home runs. So he has a lot of knowledge that he could easily, share to guys like Cal Raleigh, to Julio Rodriguez, these younger guys that need that tutelage, that are not getting it from their current staff.
Yeah. And then the Mariners are, they're one of these like up and coming teams that, are trying to make a name for themselves, kind of like the Orioles that came out of nowhere, full of, a bunch of young guys. They just need some guidance, man. They just need guidance, and if the Mariners can get the right guy on there, and to help these young guys out, it'd be great, man. Especially for somebody like Cal, like work on that, that batting average and those strikeouts. Like it, man, he could be up there, man, like tier 3, tier 2, maybe.
Yeah.
27. He's 27.
With all that power, man, like let's get the guy some help, please.
Yeah.
All right, that was Kyle Raleigh. Now, this next tier, I have both of these guys together, Gabriel Moreno and Keibert Ruiz. And both of these guys, dude, they're so similar. Batting average is similar, on base percentage is similar, OPS is similar. The power, the speed, like everything, man. Even their counting stats. Both of them had 7 home runs, 33 runs. I think the thing that separates Moreno from Ruiz is the lineup, but also on the counterpart of that, Ruiz has much better plate discipline than Moreno does. So in a categories league, I think that I actually prefer Moreno, because a little bit better batting average and some more counting stats because of the lineup upgrade. But in a points league, I think I have Keibert Ruiz a little bit higher, because of the plate discipline.
Yeah, but both of these guys, I feel like they can kind of break out. I've been waiting for Ruiz to break out for a while already. Remember the Dodgers had him. Obviously he wasn't able to break the roster because we had Will Smith. There's no, Will Smith was doing his thing. There's no way they're gonna, bump him out of the way. But I feel like he has the potential to be a lot better than what we've seen. I was surprised to hear, and I didn't know this, that Moreno won a Gold Glove last season.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, bro. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of like what's giving me the uptake for him to be, above Ruiz, as far as statistically, defensively and all that stuff. But he does play in a better lineup, obviously, the Nationals. They're rebuilding. But I would probably put my hands on Moreno and take him if I was drafting one of these. If I had a choice between these two guys. But yeah, 7 home runs, 50 RBIs, 19 doubles. He batted 284, Moreno, in 111 games. That's pretty solid, man, for up and coming catcher.
Yeah, neither of them really hit the ball very hard, and I don't really see anything like special about either one. Both of them give solid batting average. Actually, you mentioned the batting average was a little bit higher for Moreno. The expected batting average for Moreno was actually only at a 266. So he played a little bit above, what was expected. And for Keibert Ruiz, his expected batting average was 274. So I don't know. This one's kind of a toss-up. I feel like either one of these guys, if they're going to be the 11th and 12th off the list, off the draft board, I think either one of them are fine. You're going to get similar stats from both of them. Maybe a little bit more RBI from Moreno because of the lineup, and a few more walks from Keibert Ruiz because of the walk percentage. So Ruiz actually has a 10.3 K percentage, and 5.5 walk percentage. And Moreno has a 19.7 K percentage with a 7.6 walk percentage. So actually, Moreno does walk a little bit more, but Ruiz makes a lot more contact. You know, the 10.3 strikeout percentage, like that's incredible. That is super elite right there. You know, that's probably like 99th percentile. I want to check that real quick.
Yeah, he was a highly touted prospect too back when, you know, he was in the minors, man. So who knows? Like maybe I feel like we haven't seen the best of Keibert yet. I still think that he can be one of the top catchers, you know. Out of the 12, maybe he goes up to like, you know, 7, 6.
I could see that.
You know, I can see that, but it just sucks, man. The lineup that he plays in, the you know, he plays for the Nationals, and you know, I guess you kind of have to play for yourself when you're in a situation like that, you know, because I don't see the Nationals making any kind of moves like to improve the team, you know. Maybe they're just they're just hoping that their young guys, their prospects, their pitching prospects come up and you know, they maybe help the team out a little bit, but I feel like Keibert still has time to he has that potential to improve and be a lot better.
Yeah, I feel like you could say that about both of them because Keibert Ruiz is only 25 going into his age 25 season, and Gabriel Moreno is going into his age 24 season. So both of these guys have a lot of room to grow. I don't think you're really going to see too much growth in the power department, but you know, everything else, strikeout percentage, walk percentage, I feel like that could definitely be improved upon. And especially for Moreno being in the lineup that he is, I think that that's going to help him, you know, being around these veterans that could help him, you know, with the his strikeout rate actually looks pretty good. It's under 20%, but the walk percentage, both of these guys actually, because even on the Nationals, like they have some veterans also that could definitely kind of like give some guidance. But you know, towards the end of the draft, you know, when you're looking at these guys, I think either one of them are interchangeable. There's other guys that you can kind of look at after Keibert Ruiz and Gabriel Moreno. Let's see here. So there's Jonah Heim, who had an amazing season last year with the Rangers. I believe he actually led all catchers in RBI, even though he didn't play towards the end of the season because he was hurt. Logan O'Hoppe, Bo Naylor, Mitch Garver, Alejandro Kirk. There's a lot of catchers that even if you miss out on some of these guys, or even if you play in like a 15-team league, like no matter what, you're going to get a decent catcher as long as there's someone, as long as there's no one in your league going out there and hoarding a couple catchers, you know, which I don't think that
doesn't really happen.
Anyway, yeah, it's not really the smartest, but all right. We have reached the end of the show. Before we sign off, please hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you guys for joining. Make sure you check out rivalfantasy.com, see what they have to offer. We are going to be doing some best ball drafts of our own pretty soon. Very excited for this baseball season. And thank you guys for joining in. And we will see you guys next week with our starting pitcher rankings, or the first episode starting pitcher ranking. All right. Thanks, everybody. See ya.
Later.